Disclaimer.
I hid everything for years until the darkness finally exposed me.
My name is Derrick J. Matthews. I am 36 years old. I died for 8 minutes on May 27, 2022 in Charlotte, North Carolina.
And what I saw changed everything. Before I begin, please subscribe so more people can hear testimonies like this. People think I'm confident because I know how to smile at the right time. They think I'm strong because I pray loudly and play the keyboard like the spirit lives in my fingertips. But the truth is, I learned early in life that if you look strong long enough, people stop asking if you are okay. And I was not okay. For months, something in me had been unraveling. Quietly, slowly, like a thread pulling loose from the inside a jacket. Nothing big enough for people to see, but big enough for me to feel every single night when the world got quiet. The silence in my apartment felt heavy. I would come home after church events, drop my keys on the counter, and just stand there, not moving, not thinking, just existing. There's a kind of loneliness that feels like a sound you cannot turn off. And in that silence, my temptations waited for me. Not wild sins, not scandal sins, just the small, hidden kind, the kind you convince yourself are harmless because they do not show on your face. The kind that feel like comfort when you're tired, like relief when you're overwhelmed. I kept telling myself, I can stop whenever I want. But that was the lie that held the door open. The thing about hidden sin is it never shouts. It whispers. And I was starting to whisper back. People always said, Derrick, you are gifted. God is going to use you. And I believed them. I believed it so much that I used my gift to cover the parts of me that were dying. The music, the ministry, the laughter, it all became a performance I did not realize I was acting in. I was the man people leaned on, but I had no one to lean on myself. That night at the youth event, something felt different. I remember standing behind the keyboard while the kids worshiped, and for a moment, just a moment, I felt completely disconnected from the sound I was creating. Like my hands were playing, but I was somewhere else, somewhere far. I shook it off, told myself I was tired, told myself I needed coffee, told myself anything except the truth, that my soul was slipping. When the event ended, I stayed behind to pack cables and wipe down the keyboard, pretending I needed extra time. The truth was I did not want to go home. Home had too much silence. Silence had too much truth. But eventually, I walked to my car. Charlotte's night air felt thick, like the humidity was trying to hold me still. My chest felt tight. Not pain yet, just a pressure that made me pause before opening the door. I leaned against the car and whispered, God, am I losing myself? My voice cracked in a way that surprised me. I did not cry much. I did not let myself. I shook my head, got in the car, and started driving. The city lights blurred slightly, but I blamed it on exhaustion. The radio was off. I wanted it quiet. I wanted space to think, but the thoughts that rose were the ones I spent months pushing away. You are drifting. You are hiding. You are not who you pretend to be. I tightened my grip on the wheel as my throat tightened with it. I whispered, I will get better. I promise. After this week, after this month, I will fix it. But even as I said it, I felt the lie inside the words. The first sharp flutter hit my heart, so fast I flinched. Not pain. More like my heart skipped a step and struggled to find the next one. I breathed in slowly. Then again, I waited for it to settle, but it did not. A second flutter, then a third, stronger. Then a sudden heat blooming behind my sternum. I pulled into the right lane, trying to calm my breathing, but my pulse was climbing on its own. My left hand tingled. My tongue felt thick. The streetlight ahead stretched into 2, then 3. God, not now. Please not now. The words stumbled out of me. My vision trembled. The night outside, the windshield pulsed like it was alive. The steering wheel felt far away, like my hand were slipping off reality itself. That was the first moment I felt fear. Not the loud kind, but the cold, creeping kind that tells you something inside your body has already decided before your mind catches up. And then the pressure in my chest deepened, shifted, and something inside me whispered, this is the consequence of everything you ignored. My breath broke. My sight dimmed. The world dissolved around me, and the darkness did not wait. Everything went dim like someone slowly lowering a curtain over my eyes. I could still hear the hum of traffic somewhere behind me, but the sound felt stretched, distant, like it was coming through a long tunnel. My hand slipped off the wheel. My body leaned forward against the seatbelt, but I did not feel the weight of it. It was like my nerves disconnected before my mind realized what was happening. My heartbeat slammed once, hard, then stuttered, then again, then nothing, but I was still there. I blinked, or I tried to, but my eyelids did not move. My chest did not rise. My lungs were frozen. Yet somehow, I was still thinking, still aware, still present. There was a soft click as my head dropped sideways onto my shoulder. Silence. And then, like someone snapped invisible strings, I lifted. Not fast, not dramatic, just upward, smooth, slow, effortless. Like gravity loosened its grip on me. I saw my own body slumped in the driver's seat, mouth slightly open, eyes half shut. My skin looked gray under the streetlight. A strange numbness washed through me. Not fear, not shock, just the heavy awareness that I was looking at a shell I no longer lived in. I heard a car horn blast somewhere behind me. Someone had stopped because my car was angled halfway into the intersection. Tires screeched. A voice shouted, "Hey, you good?" But their voice sounded blurred, murky, like it was underwater. I tried to answer. My mouth did not move. I tried to turn my head. My head did not turn, but my awareness floated above everything, like I was anchored to nothing. A woman ran toward the driver's side window. Her hand slapped the glass. Sir, can you hear me?" Even though she was inches away from my body, her voice was an echo. She pulled out her phone, dialing 911. I could see her panic, the way her fingers trembled, the way her voice broke when she said, "He is not breathing." 2 men arrived. They forced the door open. They dragged my body out onto the street. One started compressions, counting under his breath. 1, 2, 3 but the numbers sounded thick, sluggish, like they were traveling through syrup. I wanted to tell them I was right here, above them, watching. I wanted to tell them to keep going. I wanted to tell them I was not ready to leave. But the space between me and the world stretched wider with every passing second, like a rubber band slowly pulling me away from everything I knew. Then it happened. A sound low, deep, almost like a hum, rose beneath me. At first I thought it was an engine or the wind, or maybe the ambulance approaching in the distance. But it was none of those things. This sound vibrated through me. It felt aware. It felt intentional. It felt like it was calling me. My floating body turned, without turning, and faced the darkness forming behind me. Not blackness like night. This was thicker. Heavy, like smoke without air. Like a void that had weight. The air around me tightened. And then something pulled. Not like a hand grabbing me. More like the gravity in the universe shifted direction, and I was caught in the current. I slid backward through the air, away from the flashing lights, away from the voices yelling, "Stay with us," away from the life that was fading behind me. The darkness swallowed the world whole, and suddenly I was dropping, but not down. It was inward, deep, into a place that felt older than time. Heat began to rise in slow waves, not burning, not painful, yet unmistakably alive. Like the air itself remembered screams. The deeper I sank, the heavier everything felt. A pressure wrapped around my chest. Not physical pressure, but spiritual weight, like the atmosphere was judging me before I even arrived. Faint whispers circled me. Not words, not voices, just sound that felt like regret. Like thousands of people sighing the same memory at once. I opened my mouth to speak, though I had no mouth in that moment, and the words formed only inside me. Where am I? The darkness answered with movement. Shadows shifted beneath me like they were breathing. A low rumble trembled through the ground, or what felt like ground. The heat intensified in pulses, each one sinking deeper into my awareness. My spirit felt exposed, stripped, like everything in me was being scanned, evaluated. And then I heard it. A single scream. Not loud, not frantic, just broken. Like it had been screaming for so long it forgot how to be strong. Another scream followed. Then a third. Then dozens. layered, distant, but rising, rising, rising. Each one pulled at me, like their pain recognized mine. I was not falling. I was being pulled. And for the first time since leaving my body, I felt fear. Not fear of death, but fear of where I was going. As the heat wrapped around me, a whisper, closer this time, sharper, aware, pressed against my spirit. This is where truth begins. And something inside me cracked because I knew this place was not the end. It was the introduction. There was no moment of landing, just an awareness that I was suddenly standing. The darkness around me thinned into a deep, reddish haze, like smoke lit from underneath by a fire that never consumed anything, only remembered. The ground beneath my feet looked like stone, but it pulsed faintly, almost like a slow heartbeat. Each pulse sent a wave of heat up my legs, not burning but pressing, pushing, evaluating. I took one step, and the echo did not sound right. It was not a sound that bounced back. It was a sound that was absorbed, swallowed whole by the air. The silence here was not empty. It was heavy. It felt like the silence kept records. I whispered, "Where am I?" But my voice broke apart before it reached the space around me. The air did not carry sound the way Earth does. Everything here felt like it resisted expression. The heat rose again, slow, steady, like a breath from the ground. My spirit clenched from the inside, not in pain, but in exposure. It felt like the atmosphere could see straight through me, past the version of myself I showed the world, past the excuses I perfected, past the jokes and confidence and the ministry image, down to the truth I hid even from myself. As the haze shifted, I noticed shadows moving, but not like creatures walking. No shapes, no forms. Just movement, like darkness remembering how it used to be light. The shadows stretched and folded and drifted across the stone as if pulled by regrets too heavy to rest. I tried to move back, but my legs refused. Not frozen, just weighted by something I could not fight. My chest tightened with the realization that I was not just in a place. I was in a revelation. And then I felt it. A presence. Not beside me. Not behind me. Not in front of me. It was everywhere and nowhere, like truth itself stepped into the space, and the space bowed under it. The atmosphere changed instantly, like the difference between a room with someone in it and a room that is truly empty. That shift, that awareness. I felt it crawl up my spine. The presence was not warm, not cold, not comforting, not angry. It was exact. Precise, like it had always known me. I tried to swallow, but I had no throat here. Yet the urge to swallow came anyway. My spirit reacting the way my body used to. I felt my thoughts scatter, then pull tight, like every hidden intention was being rearranged, examined, weighed. A soft vibration ran through the ground, up my legs, through my chest, into my mind. And then the presence spoke, not in words, not in sound, but directly into me. Each sentence felt like a truth I already knew but refused to say aloud. This is the end of pretending. My entire being trembled. The presence continued. Your life had two rooms. One you showed me, and one you hid from me. The words hit so hard they felt physical. I could not breathe, not because there was no air, but because truth here had weight. Heavy weight. Weight that forced you still. Weight that forced you honest. I wanted to look away from the presence, but there was no direction to look, no place to hide. The space reacted to my fear. The reddish haze thickened around me, as if drawing closer to witness everything in me that was being exposed. The presence spoke again. Your hidden life shaped your path. Not your gift, not your platform, not your title. My legs shook. I felt like collapsing, but had no body to collapse with. The trembling came from somewhere deeper, from the part of me that always knew I was drifting but kept calling it exhaustion, stress, or weakness. I felt every excuse come up into my awareness like bubbles rising from the bottom of a river. I tried. I did. I whispered or thought or begged, whatever it was, it felt small. The presence did not respond to my words, only to the truth behind them. You managed sin instead of surrendering it. A wave of heat swept across the ground, climbing up around me like a slow spiral. It did not burn. It revealed. Each part of me the heat touched felt peeled open. Images flickered through my mind. Short, sharp, undeniable. Moments I had forgotten. Moments I wished I had forgotten. Moments I never thought mattered. The night I told myself, it is not a big deal. The night I said, I will stop tomorrow. The morning I woke up and pretended nothing happened. The worship service where I felt numb inside, but smiled anyway. Each memory carried the same feeling. I knew better. I always knew. But I chose comfort instead of confrontation. Image instead of intimacy. Performance instead of repentance. The presence shifted, not moving, just intensifying. The truth pressed harder, and I realized something terrifying. This place knew the version of me that I hid from everyone else. This realm is shaped by choices, the presence said. Yours brought you here. My heart, or whatever part of me remembered what a heart was, tightened painfully. I tried to step away, but the ground beneath me absorbed every attempt. I was not trapped by force. I was trapped by reality. The haze in front of me began to thin, stretching into a long, narrow path made of dark stone. The edges of the path glowed with a faint, pulsating red light, as if marking the way into something deeper. I did not want to move, but I felt myself being drawn, gently, steadily, like a truth pulling me into its center. The presence spoke. You will see what your heart refused to acknowledge. The path opened wider ahead of me, and the haze parted like a curtain drawn back by unseen hands. What lay beyond it was not a scene, not a landscape, not even a location. It was understanding, a revelation forming itself into something I could perceive. My spirit began to shake, not from fear of what I had seen, but fear of what I was about to see. A soft rumble echoed under the ground, like the beginning of a warning. The heat concentrated ahead in a narrow column, rising and falling like breath. Then the presence spoke one more time. So close, I felt it inside every part of me. Prepare yourself. And the curtain of darkness lifted. When the curtain lifted, the world in front of me folded into layers, like reality was built from memories, choices, and consequences stacked on top of each other. Each layer glowed faintly, then darkened, then glowed again, as if it breathed. At first I thought I was looking at distant figures, but then the understanding hit me like a physical blow. These were Christians, gifted Christians, influential Christians. People who once stood on platforms, held microphones, led worship, preached sermons, mentored youth, prayed for others, people whose faces I recognized from conferences, from viral worship clips, from the churches everyone looked up to. Some of them I even followed online. They did not look tormented. There was no fire swallowing them, no chains dragging them. Instead, they stood inside circles of dim light, each light flickering in an uneven rhythm, like a heart with an irregular beat. Inside each circle was a truth, a memory, a decision that shaped them more than they realized. I stepped closer without moving my legs. The presence moved with me. The first circle showed a worship leader I recognized, someone whose voice used to make entire congregations cry. But here, her gift was silent. The atmosphere around her was heavy, thick with regret. Her hands were lifted, but every time she tried to sing, the sound died in her throat. Her regret spoke louder than her voice. A sentence pulsed through the air around her circle. You ministered to others from a place you refused to let me heal. The next circle revealed a youth pastor, one I had seen preach about purity and purpose. In this realm, he paced back and forth, repeating one sentence under his breath. I thought I had more time. He said it again, and again, and again like a loop he could not escape. His circle pulsed with a different truth. You use tomorrow to delay obedience. I wanted to look away. I wanted to close my eyes. But here, spiritual vision had no eyelids. More circles opened, more souls, more truth. A choir director known for power and energy, now trembling as he watched a projection of himself, ignoring conviction again and again. A volunteer who everyone loved, now facing the bitterness she hid behind kindness. A preacher whose sermons went viral, now watching how pride rewired his motives until ministry became performance. The presence spoke. These are not punished. They are revealed. The words cut deeper than anything I had heard. Hell was not simply a place of fire. It was a place of truth without filters. A place where who you became stood in front of you with nowhere to hide. I swallowed hard. Or tried to, because somewhere in the middle of that revelation, I felt the presence shift its attention onto me. The space ahead brightened into a circle of red light. My circle. I felt every thread of my existence twist, tighten, pull. My legs, or whatever my spirit used as legs, shook uncontrollably. I did not want to step into it. I knew what was coming. I had avoided this moment my entire life. The presence said, "You will face yourself now." The circle opened like a door, and inside it stood me. Not my body, not my spirit, but a reflection of my decisions. Living, breathing, undeniable. I saw myself standing in my apartment late at night, screen glowing, heart racing, click after click taking me deeper into the habit I told myself I could turn off whenever I wanted. But here, the habit did not look small. It looked like surrender. I saw the nights I said, "God, forgive me," not out of repentance, but out of guilt relief. I watched myself pray, quick, emotionless prayers, apologies that carried no intention to change. Then I saw something worse. I saw the moment I preached to the youth about purity the morning after falling into temptation. I watched my own lips move, speaking words I did not live. And I saw the subtle shift in my spirit that day, the way the lie stuck to me like dust. I felt sick. There is no nausea in the spiritual realm, but the shame hit like a wave that bent me forward. "No," I whispered. "Please no." The presence did not stop. It showed me a memory I never expected to see. The moment I cried alone in my car after a worship night. That memory was one I never shared with anyone. I had felt so empty that night, I questioned if God even recognized my voice anymore. I watched the tears fall from my face. But the presence showed the part one never saw. The look on my own spiritual reflection. I was not crying from repentance. I was crying from being exposed. I was crying because I hated being weak, not because I hated being sinful. That broke me. I fell. Spirit collapsing inward. I did not want to drift, I whispered. I did not. I just did not know how to stop. The presence spoke with painful clarity. You never asked for healing. You only asked for relief. I sobbed, a soundless sob that shook my entire being. And then, the revelation came that pierced deeper than all the others. A childhood memory surfaced, the moment at age 9 when I told God during altar call, "Use me. I will serve you all my life." I had forgotten that moment completely, but it had been written in my spirit. "Derrick," the presence said, "I mark you that day." The memory shifted into another, my teenage years when I prayed alone in my room, saying, "God, do not let me go too far from you." I had forgotten that prayer too, but heaven had not. "You asked me to pull you back if you ever drifted." The words hit me like lightning. Everything, I whispered. The conviction, the guilt, the heaviness. "It was you pulling me back." "Yes." "And this place showing me all this is part of it." "Yes." I collapsed again, full body trembling, spirit cracking open. "Then why am I here? Why show me hell? Why let me fall this far?" The next words changed everything. "Because you were becoming unreachable. And you asked me, years ago, to reach you by any means necessary." My breath, or the memory of breath, stopped. That was the concrete reason. Not punishment, not rejection, not a general warning. A promise. A promise I asked for. A promise he honored. Even if honoring it meant dragging me to the edge of eternal separation to wake me up before it was too late. The presence spoke one final sentence before the vision shifted. "You came here because you asked me to save the real you, not the version you performed." Those words lit something in me, a spark of hope, or maybe terror wrapped in mercy. Because I realized this was not where I was staying. This was where I was being confronted. This was not the end. This was the intervention. And the intervention was not gentle, because the drift had not been gentle either. A low rumble shook the ground. The circles of souls dimmed. The heat rose. I felt the atmosphere change, like something was preparing to pull me out. But the presence said one more thing, the sentence that would define the rest of my life. I am sending you back because your healing is tied to the people who follow your voice. And the ground beneath my feet split open with light. I am sending you back because your healing is tied to the people who follow your voice. After the light split open beneath me and the ground trembled, there was a moment, a single breath of stillness, like the realm paused to let the weight of everything settle into my soul. And if you're still here, listening to this, thank you. Please subscribe if you want more testimonies like this. It truly helps more people hear these warnings. The moment the presence spoke those last words, your healing is tied to the people who follow your voice. The ground beneath me trembled as if something ancient had just been decided. The circles of souls flickered, dimmed, then faded into the haze. The entire realm shifted like all of hell exhaled at once. Then the heat changed. It tightened, concentrated, pulled upward. At first I thought the ground was rising, but then I realized I was being lifted. Not gently, not slowly. It felt like a force grabbed the center of my being and yanked me upward with a strength that did not belong to this place. The darkness around me shuddered. The shadows recoiled. The whispers of regret fell silent. A fissure of light cracked open above me, thin at first, then widening, splitting the darkness like a blade slicing through cloth. The light poured in, not bright, not golden, but pure in a way that made every lie inside me shrivel. I reached for it, not with hands, but with desperation. The pull of hell fought for me, dragging in my ankles, my thoughts, my memories. I felt the weight of every excuse I had ever made cling to me like tar. No, please, do not leave me here, I cried inside myself. And then it happened. A hand broke through the light. Not a physical hand, not skin, not bone, but the shape of mercy, the shape of intervention, the shape of a promise I thought God had forgotten. The presence. Now clearer, stronger, unmistakably him, spoke. Your time is not finished. The moment those words touched me, the pull of hell snapped. The weight holding my legs vanished. The heat dropped away. The darkness caved inward, folding into itself like it feared the light. I felt the hand, not touching me, but surrounding me, pull me upward with impossible force. The ascent was violent. My spirit felt like it was being torn from a place that claimed ownership of me. The wind, if wind exists for the spirit, rushed past me in fast, chaotic bursts. My awareness shook like it was being stretched between two realms. Then the screams disappeared. The heat disappeared. Even my thoughts quieted. There was only the light and the hand and the truth that I was being taken somewhere I had no power to return on my own. You asked me to stop you before you crossed the point of no return, the voice said, echoing inside my being. And I honored your prayer. My spirit broke. Not in fear, not in guilt, but in relief so deep it felt like my entire soul folded inward and wept. The light wrapped around me, spinning, pulling, lifting, accelerating until everything became white. White without color, white without edges, white without distance. And then the voice spoke again, softer this time, almost like grief. Derrick, wake up. Light shattered. My body rushed back into existence like a violent impact. Air slammed into my lungs. A scream ripped out of me before I even knew I was alive. The scream tore through my throat like it belonged to someone else. My lungs expanded so fast it felt like fire rushed into them. I jolted upward, hitting the stretcher straps. Choking on air, I had forgotten how to breathe. Hands pressed me down. Voices shouted over each other. Stay with us. He is conscious. Keep him steady. Sir, can you hear me? I could hear them, but none of their voices felt real. Everything around me. The flashing ambulance lights, the night air, the cold metal beneath my back, felt thin, fragile, like a veil that might tear if I blinked too hard. I was alive, but the place I came from had followed me back, its weight still wrapped around my chest. As the paramedics worked, I stared at my own trembling hands. They felt foreign, like I was borrowing a body I once knew. My heartbeat thudded in my ears, too fast, too loud, too desperate. But beneath all of it, I felt something else. Conviction. Heavy, real, unavoidable. Not the soft conviction I used to push aside. Not the fleeting guilt I felt after sin. This was different. This conviction felt like truth holding my face in its palms and refusing to let me look away. The days after my revival were quieter than silence. Every sound, every footstep, every breath felt sharper, clearer, almost intrusive. I walked around my apartment like a stranger. I touched the walls like they belonged to someone who had not died. The bed, the mirror, the keyboard I practiced on. Everything felt borrowed. And for the first time in my life, I saw the difference between being alive and being given back. At night, the memory of that realm haunted me. Not the heat, not the screams, but the faces of the gifted Christians, the circles of truth, the version of myself I never wanted to confront. I kept hearing the presence say, "Your healing is tied to the people who follow your voice." That sentence rewired me. Because before my death, I had been preaching to people about purity while secretly losing mine. Encouraging youth to pray while my own prayer life crumbled. Teaching about accountability while living in isolation. Telling people God can heal wounds I refuse to let him touch. I realized something horrifying. I was shaping lives with a voice I was not living by. There were moments I stood before the youth group, preaching about discipline and holiness while feeling spiritually hollow inside. I remember watching a young man cry during altar call once, crying because he wanted to be free from the same sin I was falling into every night. I laid hands on him. I prayed with authority. He believed I was strong, but I knew I was giving him advice I was not obeying. That memory pierced me in ways I cannot describe. The weeks after my NDE, I began reaching out to people, slowly at first, then desperately. I texted the young man. I told him the truth, that I had been struggling with the very thing he came forward for. He called me, and I could hear the shock in his voice. But I also heard something else, relief. "Man," he whispered, "I thought I was the only one." I reached out to a friend I mentored. I confessed the hidden habits I had hidden behind my ministry. He cried, actual tears, because he said hearing my struggle made him feel human. He told me he often felt pressured to appear strong because I seemed so strong. My false strength had become someone else's burden. I reached out to an older woman in the church who prayed for me often. I told her I had been drifting spiritually for years. She did not judge me. She just exhaled, long and slow, and said, "Baby, I knew. I was just waiting for you to see it." Her words broke me open, because it meant my weakness had been visible to heaven long before it reached earth. One night, weeks after coming back, I sat at my keyboard again. Same keys, same sound. But everything felt different. My fingers shook before they touched the wood. I used to play to impress people. I used to play to feel important. I used to play to escape my silence. Now, I played because I was alive. I played because mercy reached me. I played because God pulled me back from a place I should have stayed in. Each note cracked something inside me. Tears fell onto the keys. Not because of guilt, but because of healing, actual healing, starting from the inside out. For the first time in my life, I was not performing. I was surrendering. And I realized why he sent me back. Not to warn the world. Not to become famous. Not to tell a dramatic story. Not to build a platform. He sent me back because people were following my voice while I myself was lost. If I had died then, their journey would have been shaped by a man who never let God touch the wounds that shaped him. I was sent back because my calling carried responsibility I was not carrying well. I was sent back because my ministry was louder than my obedience. I was sent back because people were imitating my strength, but not my surrender. I was sent back because God did not want the people connected to me to follow a version of me that was dying on the inside. He did not revive my lungs. He revived my responsibility. My second chance was not a gift. It was an assignment. In the weeks that followed, I woke up every morning with the same thought. I should not be here, but I am. Every sunrise felt borrowed. Every breath felt intentional. Every conversation carried weight. I moved through life with a trembling awareness that I had stood on the edge of eternity and seen what waited for the gifted who lived in hidden sin. I cannot live the same way again. I cannot pretend again. I cannot preach what I refuse to practice. I started cutting off anything that fed the old version of me. I deleted contacts. I canceled plans. I blocked websites. I told the truth. Ugly truth. To people who had only ever seen me polished. Some pulled away. Some cried with me. Some confessed their own darkness. Some finally felt permission to say, I need help too. Healing did not come fast. It came honestly, and that was the difference. I apologized to the youth group for the double life they never knew I lived. Their faces broke me. Some looked shocked. Some looked relieved. But every one of them leaned in closer. Because people respond to truth more than they respond to talent. I forgave people I had blamed for wounds they did not even know they caused. I stepped into counseling, something my pride had always avoided. I asked for accountability, something my loneliness never allowed before. And slowly, the part of me that drifted began to come home. Not to church, not to ministry, not to performance, but to God. One night, months after everything happened, I sat on my couch and whispered into the quiet, "Thank you for not giving up on me." And for the first time since childhood, I felt that whisper come back. Not loud, not dramatic, just enough for my soul to recognize the voice I had been running from. Stay with me. I broke again, not from shame, but from gratitude, from the understanding that God did not drag me out of hell to terrify me, but to restore me. He saved my soul. He saved my future. He saved the people attached to my destiny. He saved the version of me that only He could see. And if you are hearing this, please do not ignore your drift. Do not make excuses. Do not comfort yourself with your gifting. Do not hide behind your potential. Do not pretend the private battle does not affect your public calling. It does. It always does. I was dead for 8 minutes. And in those 8 minutes, the truth of my entire life stood in front of me. And if God had not honored the prayer I prayed as a teenager, do whatever you must to bring me back if I drift, I would have stayed there. So hear me. If you feel yourself slipping, stop now. If you feel conviction, respond now. If you feel exposed, surrender now. Do not wait until God has to tear the heavens open to reach you. Your soul is too expensive. Your calling is too connected to others. Your life is too important to God to waste it on hidden sin. And if my story reached you today, then maybe this warning was sent for you too. Tell me where you are watching from. I want to pray for you tonight. And stay connected. There are more warnings people need to hear. Thank you for listening. Subscribe and watch the next testimony on your screen.